Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Scorpio, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of May. I hope you are. I can scarcely believe we're ready for May already. This year has just flown by. Anywho, we're using the Shadow and Light Tarot for you today, which I like because it's got some scorpionic vibes that I dig. So let's have a look. I have 3 cards for Scorpio, please. Thank you. The first card is the 3 of Wands. The second card is... oh, we have 2 actually that have come out together. We have Strength and we have the 9 of Cups. That's extraordinary. I love that. One more card coming towards Scorpio, please. We have... ooh, the 8 of Pentacles and the King of Cups, which is a Scorpio card. At the bottom of the deck, and one of the reasons why I really like this deck is because it's got extra cards, is the element of water. It's got the elements as individual cards, and it also has some extra archetypes as well, but water is right at the bottom there, and I like this for you because obviously you're a water sign, but still waters run deep with you. And this is something that's been very difficult for you to navigate for a very long time, but I'm looking at this and there's a tremendous amount of water running into this body, whether it's a lake or a sea, I don't know. Lots of small little trickles everywhere, and it's coming out in a very measured way here. Now, Scorpio is often associated with you know, highly controlled emotions. And we can definitely see that being sort of replicated here. But everything about this feels healthy. It feels like a more metered release of water and emotion and whatnot than just damming it up and not letting any out altogether, right? It's a trickle, but it's in no danger of becoming a flood. This I like for you very, very much, and it fits very nicely with what I'm seeing here on the table too. Let's just get some clarifiers and we'll see what's going on here. So, tell me about this 3 of Wands, please. We have the Chariot and the Knight of Pentacles. Tell me about Strength and the 9 of Cups, please. We have the 8 of Swords in reverse. We have the Hanged Man and the 2 of Swords. Tell me about the 8 of Pentacles and the King of Cups, please. We have the King of Wands. I've got all this Leo energy here. Thank you. The 2 of Wands and more cards, number 2. And let's get one more. And that was the 2 of Pentacles there. I saw it. 2 of Pentacles and the Hierophant. That's really interesting. So, far more cards than I actually wanted, but we'll just roll with it because it is what it is. We have the Magician at the bottom of the deck. Now, for me, that's a card of Gemini. I know some people read it as Virgo, but it speaks about true capacity. You know, it's a card of manifestation, and Scorpios generally are quite good at manifesting, particularly money and such like, right? But the thing that I'm drawn to the most is that the card directly behind it is the Ace of Cups, and this is really extraordinary for you. Now, I've noticed that the Ace of Cups is sitting very prominently on the table. It seems to almost draw the eye straight in when you look at them together like that. It's almost like the rest of the elements as depicted there just sort of fade away. And the Ace of Cups is all about, you know, new love or a renewal of love is how I actually tend to prefer to interpret it. And it's pure potential, which is, you know, arguably what the Magician deals in too. You know, he's got his intent, he's got his will, and then he has the capacity across all of the elements there, right, to draw upon the potential of whatever that is and manifest his will. Now, for you, the focus is on emotional stuff, right? New emotional stuff, perhaps, or a renewal of emotional stuff. Because this card speaks to me about compassion. It talks to me about forgiveness and acceptance of things. And what feels like it's going on here is an increase in momentum towards this particular path that you have picked for yourself of recent, right? Because I've been seeing you kind of walking towards this for a little while now, Scorpio. And it's been tentative. It hasn't been without some level of trepidation and fear, you know, because you closed up for very good reason, you know. But an openness to the possibility of healing seems to be what is guiding you forward. So we have here the Three of Wands. And it's kind of like a low-level card of manifestation in and of itself. Whereas to see the Two of Wands as this kind of crossroads energy, like, where am I going to go? And you're kind of thinking about it. It's a very internalized process when you're trying to work out which way you want to go. You know, you look to the consequences and then work out if that is somewhere that you want to end up, right? The Three is when you have taken that path. It is when you start walking that route. And it does really seem to indicate a direction of travel here for you. Like, there are lots of different ways of looking at the Three of Wands, and sometimes there's an element of waiting for seeds that you have sown to start showing, you know, themselves and things like that. I actually don't get that here for you. There's not an element of waiting, there's an element of doing in the here and now. I mean, that's how I see the Wands anyway. It's very much experiential and the doing of things. But in the recent past, you have taken very clear, at least to you, if not possibly to other people around you, very clear steps forwards in integrating this concept into your life a little more than it has been. Now, it's underpinned here by these two clarifiers of the Chariot and the Knight of Pentacles, and I really like this for you, right? There's no doubt ever in my mind that Scorpios are one of the most determined, resolute, stubborn, powerful, let's be frank, powerful signs that there are. And when you set your mind to something, generally you will achieve what it is that you set out to do. We've got themes of balance going on here, and this is actually a card that I associate very strongly with shadow work, because we have these polarities here as indicated by the sphinxes. And they are, you know, white and black, night and day, positive and negative. You know, kind of try and shy away from good and bad, because I don't think that's particularly helpful. But, you know, it is what it is. And it talks about everything coming into balance. Through the Charioteer, right? He is the point of integration between these two sides of yourself, everything being held in alignment. You know, that's ultimately what we're heading towards. What we're always looking to do is integrate that shadow part of ourselves. At least for most people. No, the interesting thing is, for Scorpio, the shadow part of you is your emotions, those fragile, carefully contained emotions, right? Now, I'm not saying fragile to be offensive, because I don't mean that at all. You had to make some very hard decisions in your life, and you've had to deprive yourself of an awful lot of things. You know, a lot of those sort of things that other people take for granted, and you've done it because your survival instinct is very, very strong. But there's a kickback that it happens occasionally. Is it a kickback? I'm not even sure that that's the right way to describe it. The capacity for self-sabotage is really, really strong, particularly in Scorpios, right? So where on the face of it, to other people, it looks like you are sabotaging yourself, what you have been doing is working towards this goal of keeping everything very, very safe, right? And we know that this is off the back of past trauma and things like that. So what looks like self-sabotage to other people is actually very clear, very obvious, very logical way to sort of act. But because you are now seeking to integrate a more emotional side, a more open side, a potentially more vulnerable side to you, right? Even incorporate healing in there somewhere. A lot of Scorpios that I've known absolutely refuse to even countenance the possibility that they need healing of any sort. Like, no, I'm coping, I'm just fine, thank you very much, you know? it's a step beyond to go, okay, these mechanisms that have kept me safe have done a pretty good job. But things are shifting, things are changing, and I want to just try. I'm just going to put a little, little claw out there and see what happens. Now, we've spoken about hypervigilance and how exhausting that is, and I do see a recognition of that starting to occur in the Scorpio collective. But it's not gone, and let's not in any way kind of fool ourselves that that's the case, right? Because it hasn't gone. But what there is now is an openness to just, like I said, just putting a foot out there and seeing what happens. Now, in the event that something went catastrophically wrong, and actually from what I'm seeing here, I don't have a sense of that at all, like you would snap straight back. No question of it. But the time is right. Like everything just seems to be kind of hitting this point of alignment for you, where you have, maybe a safe space, maybe you created a safe space in yourself, whatever it is, where you can actually just stop, just reaching out just a little bit. And it's almost like your goals are shifting, and part of the way in which you're adapting to this new sense of your goals changing is adapting your approach. And remember, you're capable of many evolutions as a Scorpio. And there is a real sense of an emboldenment increasing, coming in to help you move in that direction. Now, we've got the Knight of Pentacles here, that's Virgo energy. And it is for me absolutely about extracting the value out of something and then kind of holding it up as the light in front of you, Now, for Scorpios, keeping that which is very important to them absolutely hunkered down and locked, underneath all of the armor has been the state of play for a very long time. But this is kind of like going, all right, no, actually, this is important here. And for you, that is going to be themes of self-worth and all that sort of stuff, right? The things that Scorpio really, really struggle with a lot. But this shift and this change, whether whether the change has occurred because your goals have changed, or whether your goals have changed because this sort of shift has started to kind of pull things in a different direction, I can't really see. And actually at this point it doesn't really matter, because the shift in and of itself is the important thing. So the fact that this particular Knight of Pentacles is static, right? The Chariot talks about big movement, but it's an undertow more than necessarily a corresponding act in the here and now. It's kind of like, well, here it is. Here's my thing. I'm getting ready to move with it, and it's going to be slow. There's going to be no rushing here. There's going to be no drama here. It's just going to be very, very small steps, because that is what I am comfortable with. And it's happening in small ways. They feel big to you, but kind of small ways to other people, bit by bit. And it might, it might be that you're moving so slowly on this that actually that nobody can perceive the difference. And it's just like in 3 or 6 months' time, they'll look back and they'll go, Scorpio's showing up kind of differently recently. Have you noticed? And people go, maybe, yeah, actually, that is slightly different. The way other people perceive this actually isn't really that important at the moment, because this feels very, very much like a self-generated process. This is not for the consumption of other people. That's not your driving motivation, and actually that's entirely the right way to go about this, for sure. And for you, the safety is the important thing, but you are incredibly powerful. You've got all of the tools that you need. It's just trial and error at this point, because there are going to be points where you put a step wrong, and then you might have to just retract a little bit. But the difference is kind of stepping back 2 steps rather than, flinging back half a mile and then battening down all the hatches and being all like, fuck this, I'm not doing that again, right? Just kind of like a couple of steps back, and then I'll start moving forwards again, right? So in your current energy, it's absolutely extraordinary. We have strength and we have the 9 of Cups, and I love this for you. Strength is a card of Leo, but you might be dealing with a Leo, but you might not, right? For most of you, I feel like it's not, because the Strength card for me is a card of growth. It is talking about, you know, that vulnerability. It is talking about trust. It is talking about expansion for me in an awful lot of ways. And you know, when I spoke about in the last monthly reading, I went and I even looked it up because I wasn't sure if Scorpios had exoskeletons and stuff. There's a sense of the exoskeleton being a little bit too tight, right? It's time to kind of start sloughing it off and give yourself the room to start getting bigger, you know? And it's here with the Nine of Cups, which is an absolutely extraordinary combination for you particularly, because it's very much centered around the individual's sense of happiness, responsibility for their happiness, acceptance that you can even be happy at all, because that's something that I've seen not be the case for most Scorpios. It's like a contentment with one's surroundings has often been as close as one would get there. But this is deep. This is really, really deep. As this woman here is surrounded by her 9 cups. I think she's looking at the sunset. She is alone, but the path that you're on here, certainly in terms of your emotional development, is a solitary one at this point. And I'm not saying that you can't have a partner or, you know, close friends or anything like that, but the huge changes need to be wrought inside of you. You need to be feeling them. You need to be rocking them before you're ever likely to start showing them to the outside world. You know, it's a very profound, very spiritual, actually, Scorpio. This is spiritual as fuck. Very profound internal shift in perspective. Absolutely dramatic, but they're not at the same time, because you're not letting other people see this at this point. She's just relaxing on that rock, and the relaxing is really, really interesting too, because it's a dropping of that hypervigilance, you know. Now, when we come to the clarifiers down here, it's very interesting, because the very first one was the 8 of Swords in reverse. Now, if you've watched my videos before and you've heard me explain this, do forgive me, and I'll go through it again just in case you haven't. This is about mental restriction. We have here a woman who is in between all of these swords, and swords are, you know, words and thought patterns and all of those kind of things, like communication. It is all the cerebral stuff up here. And she is literally bound, and she's got a blindfold on. It looks like a very perilous situation, except that she's not bound very tightly at all, you know. And if she just wriggled her arms a little bit, she would be able to take the blindfold off. Now, you know, she's sitting with this card, you know, she's there. She can feel her feet are wet. The wind is blowing in her hair. She can hear the sea. You know, she feels trapped. She feels stuck. You know, there's often a kind of feeling of terror associated with this, like, shit, I am literally imperiled really pretty hard here. But the reality of the situation is a little different, right? It's her imagination that's kind of working overtime here in terms of how much danger she is actually in, right? So once she can see where all the swords are, and she can navigate through them, and she can get off the beach and head up to this, you know, sanctuary in the back here, which is this castle tower thing that's up in the back there, right away from the sea. You know, depending on how close this sea actually is, and it looks like it could be, you know, coming in towards it here, there's a sense of possibility of being absolutely overwhelmed by your own emotions here, right? Again, not necessarily a basis in reality, but a perceived threat nonetheless. And let's not forget that your body will respond to perceived threats, you know, that are imaginary, or, you know, memories, or, you know, catastrophizing projections into the future, in exactly the same way as if you were presented, you know, with a grizzly bear in front of you that's hungry and looking skinny. You know, your body goes, shit, fight or flight mode, right? And often the meaning of this card comes down to the fact that somebody else may have put you in this position here, but You have the capacity to get yourself out of it. You are the one who is keeping yourself stuck. Now, what is absolutely glorious for you is the fact that it came out in the reverse. This is huge, because this is an acknowledgement and a recognition of all the ways in which you have kept yourself trapped, right? And you may have kind of known about these things anyway, but just consigned it to a, well, it is what it fucking is, and I can't do anything about that. I am damaged goods, and it's okay. I'm just gonna, wend my way through my life, trying to make sure that I don't ever expose myself to the possibility of deep emotional trauma occurring again. And just potter along, There are very few Scorpios in my life who've actually gone out with the intention of hurting people. I actually can't think of one off the top of my head, and I've known a lot. But they are very misunderstood. Like, you are very misunderstood, and sometimes your actions do come across that way. I've said this before, it's coming from such a place of extreme trauma. Actually, it's quite often it's an absolute miracle that you function at all, But you're looking at this now and you're seeing all the ways in which it has restricted you, and there is something. There's something that has changed and shifted, whether it is a new person coming in, or whether it was a really deep meditation you did one day, or whether you were just walking through the woods and it just hit you like a fucking train, right? Not just the intellectual understanding of what has happened to you, but all of the implications of that, right? And the understanding that you can choose not to have those things affect you in the same way, It sounds like a really, really simple thing, and it sounds actually kind of stupid, because it's that simple. Like, you can choose. I can't choose. I'm so incredibly traumatized. Like you just said it yourself, it's a wonder that I function at all. Yeah. But the most profound messages are usually the simplest ones. And it took me a long time to get my head around that too. The whole let it go thing. What a ridiculous statement, let it go. Oh, if only it was that easy, When I really started to truly understand the profundity of that, it was when I started to claw my power back to me. I can choose to let it go. No, I can't change any of the things that have happened to me in my life, but I am responsible for perpetuating this cycle, this pattern that I learned very, very young. I choose not to do that. I'm not going to do it, And part of it, initially, it was just possibly like a, flipping the bird to all of the people that ever hurt me in my life, Like, I will not fucking let you continue to have power over my life. I don't even fucking see you. I haven't seen you in years, and yet I'm still working with this, right? It's still informing all of my decisions and my reactions to everything, right? Fuck you, I'm not going to do that anymore. And the nature of it shifted over time, because I realised that my piece was more important than flipping the bird to anyone, right? And when I really started to get an understanding of the fact that peace was possible for me, it fucking blew my mind. And the importance of those people diminished almost immediately. Well, in sort of, inversely proportionate. Like, these people aren't important. The lessons that they taught me are important. The things that I am learning about myself now are really, really important. But they aren't anything. I actually wish them any harm. I just don't care about them anymore. They're not part of this. They're not part of my life. And I am not continuing to make them a part of my life by defining myself in the way that I have done all of this time. Like, this was just like absolutely mind-blowing stuff for me. And that feels like what is going on here for you. It's that same level of recognition, like, oh shit, So whether for you it's coming from a place of flipping somebody the bird, and I have to say, with these two cards here being at the top, I actually don't feel like that's the case for you at all, Scorpio. I feel like there's something much more nuanced going on here. And we've got a rejection. We have a rejection of the ways in which you have kept yourself trapped. right? A refusal to carry them forwards with you. The next card that came out with it is the Hanged Man, right? That change in perspective, looking at things slightly differently. Like I said, this little shift, these little micro adjustments that you've been making. It is the path to enlightenment, without a shadow of a doubt, and often it's very, very uncomfortable, right? There's no real getting away from that with the Hanged Man. You know, there is submission, there is sacrifice here. But what is it that you're submitting to? What is it that you're sacrificing? And these are things to look at. For me, there was a sacrifice of my sense of identity that had come through being traumatized. It was kind of like a badge that I wore. Like, don't come at me with that shit. I'm fucking traumatized, and you know, I will not respond well to this. I didn't say that, but that was kind of like the air that I've been carrying around with me for a long time, you know, like, who am I without these labels that I define myself with? So, you know, traumatized, detached, you know, emotionally problematic, you know, like, and I've always judged. Now, I'm completely honest and open with you now. For the first 38 years of my life, I always judged people that went around being happy. I was like, you don't understand how difficult life can be. You haven't experienced these things. You know, it was a low level of resentment. It was an expression almost of envy, although I didn't recognize it that way. You know, I'm like, well, you're just shallow, aren't you? You're walking around being happy like an innocent fool, you know. Glad for you that that's the case, but some of us are really, really traumatized, right? I'm fucking laying myself open here, you know, like, I'm not comfortable admitting that this was kind of my perspective on things for a long time, but it was, right? And over time, and connecting with people and really starting to understand myself more deeply, and actually allowing myself to face that aspect of me, you know, that was always kind of belittling people that were happy, and belittling people who were, you know, just pure happy souls. So it was coming from a place of resentment, it was coming from a place of bitterness, and I recognise that for what it is now. But it changed everything. God, it was more than uncomfortable at times. Even just the way that I reacted to new people, and particularly women. You know, I meet a new person who was happy and nice and kind, and I'm like, look at them, look at how much they think of themselves. Oh, fucking hell, you know. And that's probably just like the Leo bit of me there, right? But it was this constant sense of ruffling, like I'm just not good enough for anything. Had fuck all to do with the people that I was meeting. Literally nothing. Their happiness was fuck all to do with me either. But you know, I used it as a prop. You know, that's fading here. All of this sense of threat from anything outside of you is diminishing, and more importantly, a sense of a threat of what is inside you is also diminishing. You know, where you might have gone into fight or flight mode about something before, there's a willingness to sit with it now in a way that wasn't present before. This is an absolute gift that you have, Scorpio, because the level of insight that you can bring to the world, but it's almost unparalleled, right? You have this gift of being able to feel, and I know that it's felt like a curse your entire life, right? But it is a gift of being able to feel. But more than that, you are blessed with this ability to be able to make sense of that space, right? You know people. As soon as you meet them, you know exactly what that person's about, and you probably know exactly where their trigger points are. You know exactly where you could press their buttons, right? That's just innate in a Scorpio. But you've defended your own triggers and your own things so hard. You won't let anybody know that they've touched them. But you could sit in a state of cold fury for months about something and plotting, you know, what it is. it feels less important to you now. It feels like it's just sloughing away. It's just magnificent. And I really understand. I really, really do understand just how huge this is. And do you know what? How much fucking bravery it takes to do this. I'm just going to fucking lay down there. It's brave as fuck, right? We've got the Two of Swords here. And I think that that's really, really interesting because it's a willful refusal to look at things. This is what has shifted. This is what has changed for you, right? This was a comfortable place for you. I know those things are there, but I'm not going to look at them. I know the sea's there. I'm not going to look at it. I know the moon's there. I'm not going to look at it. I'm just going to do things the way that I've always done them because that keeps me safe, right? My sympathetic nervous system says that it works because, you know, when I feel threatened, I get myself out of that situation. Ta-da, I'm still alive. Right? That's the metric that your body is using as to whether you are safe or not, right? Or whether what you've done works or not. But it's very narrow and it never actually deals with the cause, right? What it is that brings the feeling of the threat up in the first place. This here, it's submitting to the energy of putting those swords down, taking the blindfold off and then turning around and going, right, I fucking knew you were there. I couldn't not know you were there, but let's have a look at you. Let's see what you actually contain. Let's see what you're actually about, right? Massive. What's coming towards you in the month of May is the Eight of Pentacles and the King of Cups. And I love this for you. This is Scorpio energy right here. And just as it's always struck me as bordering on amusing, like chuckle-worthy, that for me the Queen of Pentacles is Capricorn energy. And Capricorns are the least able to nurture themselves and care for themselves and look after themselves than any sign that there is, right? The King of Cups, emotional availability, openness, right? Good emotional management, not control, not restriction, not repression, but, you know, management. Being a Scorpio card, kind of laughable in some ways, but it's not, right? Because this is this capacity that you are now opening up to, and it's enormous. You know, just look at the pose of the King of Cups here. You know, he's sat with his arm out here, like this. And he's got his other arm out here, holding on to something. His chest is completely exposed. His heart is completely open, right? He is exactly what is seen there. Now, not everybody has the capacity to be able to perceive the depths of a Scorpio, right? And that's fine. Like, there are loads of people around like that. But there are many who, once you drop the armour, the guarding, when you know, uncross those arms from your chest, will go, oh shit, look at that, you know, and respond in kind. The Eight of Pentacles is about mastery. It's about working at something until you really could do it in your sleep, you know. And the two of them together are about this process here that you are engaged with, this journey that you are on at the moment, to really start to come into your own as a King of Cups. For real. For proper. We've got a whole heap of cards that came out down here, and we've got the King of Wands, it's Leo energy, we've got the Two of Wands, we've got the Two of Pentacles, and then we've got the Hierophant, which is Taurus energy there. Now the King of Wands is all about taking action about things, right? It's very strong movements in the here and the now, which is where the one suit operates most, right? But it's very mature. And it's interesting that the Knight of Wands, which is a card that I always thought was just Sagittarius, actually has some sort of correspondence to Scorpio as well. I forget what it is off the top of my head, but it actually can be either or. Now, the Knight of Wands is quite kind of reckless behaviour. It's kind of pure hedonism for the sake of it often, you know. It is non-committed, which is something that, you know, sometimes Scorpios are. It's kind of never staying in one spot for too long, because a rolling stone gathers no moss, it's kind of resolutely moving forwards, whatever. But the King of Wands is different. The King of Wands is a much more mature version of that energy, right? And he is depicted as seated, you know. Now he's still ready to move at some point. He's still ready to take action at some point. Look how his knees are pointed and away, you know. He's not looking at us. He's spotted something over there that he wants to do, right? It's being very, very present in the here and now, but it's a grown-up, mature version of the Knight of Wands. It is about knowing when to take action and knowing when not to take action. And sometimes remaining seated is the best thing that you can do for yourself. And with this Two of Wands here, there's an internal contemplation. Right? All the twos talk about the internal space for me here. There's an internal contemplation of consequences, but it doesn't feel like a level of hypervigilance. Right? This feels so much more open and present and ready, you know. Yes, there is some forethought because he is contemplating the globe and he is trying to work out the consequences of going one way over another, which is something that you have always done, but it's always been with a view to avoiding falling into traps anywhere, right? Keeping yourself safe and content and kind of muddling through the middle. This is it's an openness to experience here, and more than that, it's putting yourself out there. Not all the time, but every now and again, as the situation warrants it. I was going to say demands, but like that's not how Scorpios work. You don't demand things from a Scorpio. As the situation warrants it, in your judgment, you know. We have the Two of Pentacles here. So we've got these two twos sat together. Two cards, numbered 2. Essentially 3 cards of internal things that are going on. Not 3 cards, but like 3 versions of 2. What's going on inside. This Two of Pentacles is kind of, you know, juggling the pentacles, which is energetic currency for me. So whether, you know, if you can invest it, then it's a pentacle. So your time and your care and your effort. And there's huge emotions in the background here. Right, the sea is really rolling, and we've got these ships going up and down, and we've got you on the shore, kind of like juggling your pentacles. Like, where do I put shit? There's a lot of work going on in here, a huge amount of work on emotional regulation, on dealing with things that really scare you. But it's all headed off in a direction that will gain momentum. Like, I don't think it's going to move faster than you're comfortable with, because you are in control of this route here now. But there is an increase in momentum coming. Yeah, that's beautiful. I asked about the Hierophant because I was a little, there's the Two of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck there. I was a little unsure as to why it would have just plopped there, given that I understand it to mean, you know, rigidity and things always having been, or always continuing to be one way because they've been that way forever. And, you know, it's that kind of slow, creaking energy that we get. That's, you know, the more masculine and rigid side of Taurian energy. And we have the Hanged Man and the Strength card again. These 2 cards, these 2 energies following you around here in the month of May. What you are submitting to and changing your mind about, looking for new perspectives, is everything that is how you are built. Quite surprised that the Tower's not in here. That's your energy. But I think it's because it's not that sudden, shocking energy. It's not going to come in and broadside you. You're actually looking for these things now, you know. But more than that, you are looking at them with an absolute view to healing them more than anything else, right? It's not just about the discovery of the fact. It's about healing. It's about releasing. It's about letting go. It's about opening up to experience life in the capacity that you are built to do so. You know, rather than how you were trained not to do, you know. This is huge. I really like this reading for you, Scorpio. It's absolutely incredible. I said that you would surprise people, and here you are. Right, this is what I've got for you. I'm going to go over to Vimeo now and kind of pull this apart a little bit more. Let's pay a bit more attention to what's going on in May specifically. Get some advice and stuff like that. So if you want to join me over there, there's a link in the description box that'll take you over to Vimeo. But if not, no shade. Just keep doing what you're doing, Scorpio, because the results you will see very swiftly, right? Even if other people don't see them, you will notice the change in how you feel. You will notice the change in how you react to things. And that's the thing that's important for you. So, know that I love you all very, very much, and I will see you soon.